We actually have a few news items to get to today on the show. We'll also talk some mono league strategy ahead of AL Labor tonight. Hope you'll join us on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WynnBET. I'm Clay Link here with Todd Zola of RotoWire and Masters Ball. Always great to be sharing the airwaves with an FSWA Hall of Famer. And Todd, we actually did get a few bits of sparse news, so we'll make our way through that.
Enlighten me, my friend. Enlighten me. I haven't looked yet.
Yeah, nothing too big, but maybe the biggest is that Mike Trout will be a full participant whenever spring training begins. So this has been the hope, but Mike DiGiovanna of the Los Angeles Times reporting that Trout will indeed be a full participant. We haven't known what's been going on with him really since that injury first came up. It was a calf strain, and it just kept lingering and lingering. So, it's been very much up in the air, his health, but at least we have a report now that he will be restriction-free. That's a good sign for Mike Trout.
Right. Now, I think everybody was assuming that was the case, but it's always nice to hear the corroboration.
Right, yeah. We just, throughout all of last year, we had no idea about his progress. And so I think that left a lot of people wondering if he could maybe be limited or miss even time this year.
Yeah, and there's other players out there that we sure would like to know about officially, but due to the radio silence, due to the L word, if you will, we just don't know. And man, there's going to be a rush of news, knock on wood, sooner than later. But we're going to be hearing all sorts of things.
Yeah, another guy who provided the update himself on Twitter, Shane Bieber, kind of a similar note in that he's just 100%. He claims he's been 100% for a while now, so that just kind of eases concerns. He did return late last year, unlike Trout, but Bieber only threw 3 innings in his final 2 outings.
Right.
And his final outing, he faced 13 batters, only had 1 strikeout. So there were some lingering questions heading into the offseason. Do you feel better about drafting Bieber now, or are you still a little concerned about his shoulder?
Not at the price. At the price, no. If it's an auction and the price falls for whatever reason, maybe. But at the current price, no. There's too many other. Is any pitcher safe? I don't know, but I think it's taking on too much risk.
I think that's probably true. He was great before, and really, I hadn't seen command that good, maybe ever. Like, that guy could just put it wherever he wants it on a dime. Right. But I mentioned he came back. Really, his entire second half was wiped out, aside from those 2 brief outings at the very end.
Now, the flip side of that argument is, if he was healthy, he'd be a first or second rounder.
True.
So there is a discount. So now my counter to that is, you kind of just alluded to it. How many innings is he going to throw? All right, now we have to bring the L word back in. If the season is truncated by months and not days or weeks, maybe take a chance, a little bit more of a chance on Shane Bieber. But assuming 162, I'd rather in that range. There's Logan Webb and the guys I've been landing on, Kevin Gausman and Freddie Peralta. I'd rather go with them.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel a little bit better about him just hearing that he's been 100% for a while, but just haven't seen that elite Shane Bieber in a long time now since the injury first cropped up. It's hard to spend that valuable of a pick on him. At least it has been for me so far. Things could change if I see him on a Cactus League mound. He's looking great, but right now I think the price is a bit too high on Shane Bieber. Another injury note we had at Max Muncie making incremental progress. He said on a podcast that he's getting closer to swinging a bat. He has a chance to be ready for the start of the season. We found out from the horse's mouth last year that he actually had a torn UCL. So that's a serious injury. He is a first baseman, so he doesn't have to do a lot of throwing, which is nice. But Still up in the air as to his status for opening day.
And there's a DH in the National League, and knock on wood that they don't go back on that in the negotiations. And someone like Edwin Rios can take over at first. They've got some opportunity. They've got some fill-ins. Yeah, Muncie has been way high up on my spreadsheets, my cheat sheets in a few of these drafts that we've been doing. And there was just
falls.
Yeah, well, and I, all right, maybe I'm overprojected, so I'll drop him 30 at bats. Oh, he's still overprojected. We just don't know, and we still don't know. And I didn't take the chance on him because it was just so up in the air. I just finally dropped the plate appearances down to around where he's being drafted. That might be too low. We'll see. But then there's the whole. He had such a poor season, and he bounced in the pandemic year. Then he bounced back. What is his baseline? But you mentioned first base. He still has second base eligibility, right?
Yeah, 1B, 2B is pretty darn nice. That with the util spot, that means he fills up 5 different spots on your active list.
Yeah.
Your kid's capable of filling those. Yeah, I did end up with him in one draft because he fell, but the past few I have not taken Muncie. But if he ends up being ready for the start of the year, which he's not closing the door on that yet, he could end up being one of the better bargains in drafts right now, Max Muncie.
I think I do have him in a best ball, which I think is the perfect place to take him.
That's the
point.
ideal spot to get Muncie.
With the injury, etc. So yeah, we'll see.
You mentioned that his 2020 was a down year, but in terms of Fangraphs WAR, he's been right around 5 each of the last 3 full seasons.
Right.
Pretty amazing story for a guy who was, fizzled out with Oakland, didn't appear in the majors at all in 2017. I think he was at AAA that entire year. And what a find by the Dodgers, and what a success story for their development team. I mean, you got to give the Dodgers and their coaching staff a lot of credit on Max Muncie.
Yeah, they look for players who don't chase, and they've got a certain profile of players that they like, and he clicked into it, he fit into it. Isn't there a Max Muncie, younger Max Muncie on Oakland right now?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, not related either.
No, right. Yeah, I just Max Muncie sounds like a good, last name Muncie. Yeah,
Maximum Muncie. Yeah, I really like the player, and I mean the K's have been manageable. The walk rate's sky high. If you get him in an OBP league, he's great. So we'll continue to monitor his progress. But if he is able to go, he could end up being a huge value right now. Another guy who we've been waiting on, Seya Suzuki. He made it clear earlier this week that he's still looking to move to the majors this year. So he's still looking to come stateside. The quote from his agent was, Seya is 100% committed to playing in MLB this year. He's shown remarkable patience and resolve. So I thought maybe he'd end up with the Red Sox. Apparently the list of suitors is down to the Cubs, Giants, Padres, Mariners. Who knows? There'll be others dabbling in once teams are officially able to make their bids on this guy. But good to know he's still coming, and another guy who could end up being a huge bargain, but just a great unknown right now.
Right. Doesn't it reading between the lines? I mean, there was some negotiation before the shutdown. I think what I'm reading it as, I'm confident that I'm going to get the contract with the team and the money that I want. Mm-hmm. There was enough discussion with somebody that he's confident that he's going to get what he wants.
He's not turned off by this whole lockout.
Well, that as well. And the other end of it is he's confident that there'll be enough baseball to be played. But it sounds like, I mean, if there was any hesitation, maybe I'm not going to, I think he's confident, and I'll bet he signs pretty quickly.
We've seen some of those guys who make the jump from overseas ball really struggle lately. Hassan Kim, Shogo Akiyama, but I think you push those out of your minds and you start fresh, because Suzuki has a lot of potential. It doesn't run a ton, but in 2019 he stole 25 bags, just 9 last year in 13 attempts. So he's got a little speed, but a career high 25, you can't really expect anything close to that.
Right. You can put Tsutsugo in that class, Yoshi Tsutsugo in that as well.
Yeah, that's true.
To me, there's two reasons why I'm not concerned. The first is age. He's a little bit younger. and the second being the three that you mentioned. Well, two that you mentioned, one that I added, all came over during the pandemic, and it's already tough enough to make
what an uphill battle.
Right, you get family, however many thousand miles away it is, etc. So, is that a rationalization, an excuse, or or an actual reason? I don't know, but I'm not discounting Seya Suzuki because of the three recent players that have come over from the Korean and the Japanese leagues.
Yeah, I hear you there. I look at the numbers. It's so hard to know, especially given the recent examples, how to translate what the equivalencies are to the highest level of baseball. But 317 last year, 433 on base, 636, 38 homers. That looks pretty darn nice. So maybe I haven't been shut out on Suzuki, but maybe I need to just step it up and get a little aggressive on this guy, because I think Vlad Sedler's been pumping him, and you usually like to be on the side of Vlad Sedler on these takes.
Yeah, our friend Tim McLeod as well has been on him. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Tim McLeod knows what the heck he's doing. He's so good with the overseas players. And he's a guy who's also pumping Robert Suarez. Watch out for Robert Suarez. You've been taking him in all the drafts I've done with you and really getting under my skin, Todd. But I was telling Jeff Erickson earlier this week that I feel like the Ks for Robert Suarez haven't really been there or weren't there overseas. He only averaged about a strikeout per inning. I feel like that fastball changeup combo will translate pretty well and may end up translating to more strikeouts than most people think.
I know he's a starter, but Ken Maeda did not strike out as many batters in the overseas and came over here and just threw the roof. So I think you're right. And I think the Padres do a good job with their relievers. So I'm not counting on Suarez in any league. It's more of I don't want to call it a luxury item either. It's more of a hope. And,
dart throw.
Yeah, it's an educated dart throw, if you will. Yeah. It's not as if I'm taking him as my second closer and saying, all right, I have 60 saves. But I take him amongst a group of closers, and I hope 2 of these 4 land a job, and I hope he's one of them, things like that.
Yeah, if you don't know who Robert Suarez is, you can be forgiven because he hasn't actually thrown a pitch in the States. He pitched 1 year in the Mexican League, and then he's been 5 seasons in Japan since. So, but has emerged as a viable closer. Did over in Japan. We'll see if he can close games in the majors or if the Padres want him to. But I feel like he's probably the front runner right now for that job in San Diego.
I feel like they'll be given an opportunity, right? Yeah. There'll be an open competition. I mean, they're talking about, what do you need spring training for? I mean, that's one of there's certain situations where it's going to be important, and that's one.
And you have to keep in mind that Bob Melvin's there now, so it's not like he's coming in with a guy with a leg up on the roll. I mean, it should be a blank slate, right, with Melvin.
Well, okay, so let's go. I mean, we do this so many times with other podcasts, etc. I'm not a Drew Pomeranz guy, right? Just gets hurt too much, and I'm not going to count on him to be the closer. There's still Pagan, right?
Yeah, Emilio Pagan, Pierce Johnson.
Yeah, so I think Pierce Johnson is sort of the people are putting it on him, but I don't see it. I think Louis Garcia is another guy to keep in mind, but I think you're right in that Suarez, and it may, we may not even know it because the competition may extend into the season.
Yeah. So yeah, good point. It could be a kind of an extended audition into the regular season. Yeah. That would make sense. I do kind of like Pagan, but I feel like with his experience, granted it wasn't major league experience, but I still feel like, once Melvin knows of his track record, he'll value that track record closing games and probably may view Suarez as this guy to start. We'll see. But I love that dart throw and an educated dart throw, as you said. A couple other news items real quick. Anthony Rendon remains on track. Should be a full go once the lockout ends. That's good to hear because his 2021 season was marred by injuries, a hamstring in particular. needed surgery on that hamstring. So good to hear Rendon's doing well. He kept falling in my TGFBI draft. I thought about him, but I ended up going elsewhere, and it just feels like, suddenly, I guess you look at the projection systems too. It suddenly seems like Anthony Rendon's, like, the baseline for him is plummeted.
I got a lot of him early because he was falling, and all right, I'll take the third baseman is my third baseman, and I'll back him up with a Luis Urias or Joey Wendell or something like that. But lately, I've been getting Ramirez or Manny Machado or Rafael Devers early, so I haven't had then I'm kind of sigh when someone gets Rendon at what I consider to be a big discount. He's interesting in that he's thought of as a power hitter, but he's really not a power hitter. And he really, really benefited from, we joked about it before, the happy fun ball in 2019. He's one of those guys where his average fly ball distance really was buoyed by that 5 or 6 extra feet, where if you add the 5 or 6 extra feet, it's not the number of home runs isn't proportional. Within that 5 or 6 extra feet, there's a logarithmic or whatever the formula would be. So he really benefited, but he still hits for high average, has enough power in a decent top of the lineup anyway out there in Anaheim, if you will. So I like Rendon. I do think you need to back him up. Maybe have it's so hard to do because third base is so weak. But maybe you take a Luis Urias as your middle infielder. Therefore, you have somebody to slide over. That's why I said Wendell and Eugenio Suarez and Gio Urshela, depending on how deep we want to get. These are all third base eligible players that are eligible somewhere else that can help.
I was kind of taken aback when I saw how low the projection systems were on Rendon generally, but I think you mentioned the 2019. I think maybe that was weighing a little bit more in my head because he had 34 home runs that year, but he's topped out at 25 in his other seasons and doesn't run much. He has been at least 40% above league average by WRC plus. He was each of the prior 4 years until last year. So still a good hitter, but now 31 and turns 32 this summer. It seems like, just with a new baseball in play that he's not anywhere close to being that guy we saw a few years ago, and shouldn't expect him to be. But he can still be a good player in the team context. Is great. He's going to be batting behind Ohtani and Trout. So maybe I'm kind of talking myself back into Rendon here.
You just have to have an escape plan at third base, which is tough to do.
Absolutely. Well, real quick, before we move on, we have to take a quick break. So a word from our sponsors. Hope you'll stick with us here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. And now we are back on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WinBet, Clay Link, and Todd Zola. One other news item I just wanted to throw at you, and you probably saw this on Twitter. I think it was our buddy Craig Mish who first mentioned it, but Sixto Sanchez, more shoulder trouble. So probably not going to be back before midseason. That, according to John Heyman of MLB Network in the follow-up. I think it was clarified that it was not a new injury or a separate injury, but just slower going than in his recovery from shoulder surgery than expected. So it sounds like Sixto, essentially a guy you cross off your board, even in those draft and holds, I would say, because when he comes back, who knows what you're getting.
Right. You got to wonder, it's more wondering at this point, doesn't matter. But, did the lack of being able to work with the team and their facilities slow down the recovery, or is he working with doctors and has everything he needs? Again, it doesn't matter. It's just one of those things you think of, is this, collateral damage to this whole scenario. But if it raises up Edward Cabrera a little bit, maybe that's the good news is now we have a little bit clearer path for Edward Cabrera to find himself a spot in a nice fledgling rotation. And we're already hoping for Jesus Luzardo to come back, and they've got some solid guys at the top anyway. So yeah, Cabrera to me is now if he was a 45th rounder, he's now a 35th rounder, and maybe even higher in a DC.
And then finally on this end, Jameson Tyone. Sounds like he's doing pretty well. He had ankle surgery at the end of October, but he's throwing, and his teammate Luke Voigt said Monday that the right-handers looked good in his recent throwing session. So you wouldn't expect a teammate to say anything else, but it's still good to hear that he's doing well and building up. Kind of a forgotten man. I haven't thought much about Jameson Tyone this draft season. Should I be giving him some mind?
I think so. And I think there was a positive report a little bit earlier on him.
Yeah, but that report didn't seem like maybe he wouldn't be ready for the start of the year, but maybe some point in April.
Right. To me, that was positive enough that he now became a target in these draft champions, et cetera, or even a reserve in a fab league. So I'm kind of glad I got a few pieces of Tyone already, because I think, well, this news, he jumps up even to the next. Now, there's still the Yankee stigma, which is sort of really shouldn't be, because Yankee Stadium is don't cancel me, folks, because it's true. It's a pitcher's park. It's a home run park, but it's a pitcher's park. And I think, Tyone with his ground ball ways, although didn't he have 1 year where maybe it was even last year, where the fly balls just jumped up, and I'm just assuming he goes back to being a ground ball guy. But I'm on it. I think that the run support, etc. I'm on Tyone. Yeah. So last year, 33% ground ball rate, whereas it was in the high 40s in the rest of his career. So I'm gonna write that off as just a blip, and assume he goes back to the reducing home run ways.
Just while we're on the topic of the Yankees rotation, I want to say we had John Legeza from The Athletic at MLB Moving Averages on Twitter. He was on the XM show with us earlier today. James and I were talking with him about Jordan Montgomery, and he kind of sold me on Montgomery. I got to say, I wasn't really in on him, but you go back, check it out on demand for John's full argument in favor of Montgomery, and he could make that argument better than I can. But he did a good sell job, and I'm thinking maybe I need to prioritize Jordan Montgomery in future drafts.
I'm doing a quick search. I either wrote it. I think I may have written it for either us or for ESPN, the profile, and I was on him ever since. No, I would not have mentioned Jimmy Key. So someone else wrote it for RotoWire.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm on him, and I'm not scared. Maybe it was even the profile I wrote for my own site. I'm not scared. I think he's got what it takes to defeat or to stay competitive in the AL East. I did not hear John's interview. I'm going to go back and catch that. Yeah,
he did a good job, and he's obviously
he was in my old spot. He was in my old spot.
Yeah, he did a good job making the case for Jordan Montgomery. And Montgomery's a funny case because he's a junk baller, kind of. The changeup and curveball are the two pitches he throws most, but then he does throw a sinker and a fastball. Just a lot of pitches he's willing to throw to the opposition. And when he's able to kind of work backward in a sense, that's pretty nice.
And the splits didn't scare me. Matter of fact, I may have even been encouraged by the splits. So I think he is definitely, again, there's a stigma about Yankee Stadium, and a lot of these pitchers get downgraded, and I don't think they shouldn't. He's kind of one of those guys where Montgomery, where he is in the rankings, it's I think that Ty used to go to NL. I think you can now flip it to the AL. My last sentence, I now have the profile. Some may still shy away with Montgomery toiling in the tough AL East, and as you kind of alluded to, but the Southpaw has the secondaries to keep hitters off balance, so don't be afraid to invest.
I like
so
it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I don't know what's so interesting, but I mean, his innings were not tempered as much as maybe you'd think they'd be after pitching such a little amount the previous few seasons. I can hear. I don't do a Jason Collette imitation, but I can hear him now saying he likes pitchers that are this extra year removed from TJS. Yeah. And Montgomery now fills that bill.
Yeah, his walk rate jumped up last year. It was only 4.7% in 2020, and I believe that he was just coming back that year from Tommy John.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you do expect some struggles the first full year back.
the changeup and curve both have a swinging strike rate north of 20%. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I didn't know that about Yankee Stadium. I still have that misconception in my head that it's a big-time hitters park. And as you said, for home runs, it still buoys them, but suppresses runs, huh? That's interesting.
Yep.
Did not know that about Yankee Stadium. Well, let's shift our conversation to mono leagues a little bit. And I just think, ahead of Labor tonight, which you and Jason and James Anderson are going to be in, among many others, star-studded cast. Ian Kahn defending his title this year. I'm excited to see and listen to that broadcast on Sirius XM radio. But in mono leagues, just very generally, how does your strategy shift, if at all, going from all these mixed leagues you're doing to AL or NL?
Well, I only draft players in the AL is the main difference. No, I'm actually stuff. Yeah, I'm actually going to be, and I can say this now, 2.5 hours and change in advance. We'll see if I stick to it. I don't know. But I have been, to me, I play the middle game. It's a, salary cap draft and auction. So, I think everybody in a mixed league knows you spend and then you can get your $1, $2 guys at the end because of field. In an only league, there are some that go out and spend, and then there are some that play the middle. And I've always been a middle guy, and it just hasn't worked for me the past few years. It might be just I picked bad players, but I'm going to switch it up a bit. And I'm saying this now again, hold me to it. I'm going to be more aggressive at the top. I'm looking at I put a rough estimate of dollar amounts that I'm willing to spend per position. And my hitters, I have a 40, 30, 30, and a 20. So that's far more aggressive. To me, this is my mixed league roadmap, and I never spent $40 in a mixed league. So we'll see. But the irony is, I don't know if irony is the right word, but this is how I used to approach it. When I won 3 NL-only NFBC leagues back when I was participating in them, I'd walk in with $100 for 3 players. And Brandon Phillips, and I'm trying to remember, one year I just remembered who the 3 guys were. I'm getting these 3 guys, and in that I'm just going to get them. But I'm kind of going to try to go back. I still have plenty of spots to play the middle game.
Yeah.
Where if I feel I'm good at money management, which I feel I am.
You just got to avoid too many $1 guys.
Yeah, but on Labor, this is a know thy rules thing. In Labor, you can't bench a guy unless he's hurt or sent to the minors. You have to outright release him. So playing this middle game, I would find that some of the players that were available on Fab, I didn't feel they were worth replacing my $5 or $6 guy. And some of them would pop, and I would miss out on them. If I have a couple of $1 and $2 if I several $1 and $2 guys, I think it would free me up to say, well, I like this guy that emerged more than my $1 endgame player, so I'll be willing to drop him. So I think know the rules, and I'm going to try that. I've got a 1-1-2-2. I've got 4 players for $6 on my offense, and they may be catchers or they may not be catchers. We'll have to see how it goes. Mm-hmm. But they sort of have to keep that in mind. Do you want to get Labor specific?
Sure, we can. Yeah, let's talk
because of the uncertainty about all the free agents. Steve Gardner, who runs Labor, had to come up with a decision on how to handle them. Normally, they're available in the auction, and if they sign in the other league, you lose them.
You're SOL.
You're done. You lose them. And, of course, it's usually far fewer. There's usually a handful, and it's not as big of a deal. Now there's a ton, obviously. So what Steve has done, he came up with a list of the 12 top free agents using the NFBC ADP, and these 12 players are ineligible to be nominated in both the AL and the NL. And they are Freddie Freeman, Trevor Story, Nick Castellanos, Kenley Jansen. Chris Bryant, Carlos Correa, Kyle Schwarber, Carlos Rendon, Eddie Rosario, Nelson Cruz, Anthony Rizzo, and Clayton Kershaw. So we cannot draft these players tonight/Sunday night when the NL goes. Now, once the season begins, there's going to be a separate fab period for just the only players that's, whichever of these 12 guys signed in the AL, there's going to be an individual fab period for just those players and one for the NL. So, you can take, if you have a strong feeling that Freddie Freeman's going to go back to the Braves, or if he doesn't, he's going to go to the Dodgers, and in other words, he'll be in the NL. Someone in the NL may just take a scrubby first baseman and just plan going all in on Freddie Freeman during the fab period.
That definitely adds a new wrinkle.
Yeah,
because from the ways I played in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where Steve's coming from now. In Tout Wars, what we've done is we've said we were hoping, full disclosure, that it wouldn't matter, but it's going to matter. Tout Wars is in 2 weeks. We're saying you draft him, and we're going to program the site. So if you draft Carlos Correa in AL only, and he signs with the Cubs, well, he's not going to sign, whatever, signs in the NL, you're going to get his stats. I like that. So, I mean, it's different, but, we've got to do something. Again, maybe in 2 weeks, it doesn't matter. We don't know, but we just feel that first of all, it's different than what Steve did. And we like that. We give people two different, if you're not able to delay your league until we know what's going on, some people have to do drafts earlier for whatever reason. Now there are two different thought processes that you can look at the prices, look at the builds, and see which you liked better for your league. So that was one reason why Tout Wars did it. And in my head, trying to think of how it's going to affect prices, I think it'll affect prices a little bit less in the Tout way. So in other words, the prices will be a little more parallel. So it's just a guess. I don't know, but I mean, it still leaves. Steve didn't give a complete list, but Jorge Soler, Michael Conforto, Tommy Pham, these are $20 players. Mm-hmm.
Especially if, depending on where they sign. I mean, some of those guys could be going a lot higher than that.
And I think I have to go back and read it before tonight, but I think Suzuki is just, we mentioned before, Seya Suzuki, I think he's just not eligible in anything. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is, but, or maybe he fell right out. Maybe he fell right outside and he is eligible. Again, I need to check. But
that'll be one to check up on for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'm just not going to
Suzuki rules.
I'm a wimp. I'm just not going to nominate anybody like this and let someone else get scolded by Steve for doing so.
Scolded by Steve is not so bad because he's like the nicest guy in the world.
if you get scolded by Steve, you've done something
messed
worse. Up. Yeah, although I mean, I say that, but he has a heavy hand as he should. In the labor leagues, you can't. I mean, in your own league,
no funny business going on.
In your own, in a league where it's just 12 people, 15 people, you can. I don't want to say bend the rules, but you can. You can wiggle. There's wiggle room when you're running. And the same in Tout Wars, we can't give someone a break in one league because someone in another league will hear about it, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You have to run with an iron fist is the word I was looking for. So. Steve, if someone were to drop a player accidentally, and if you right away, if you call him or email and say, Steve, I inadvertently dropped this guy, you flip it. You do it 4 or 5 days later. No, but we're in a home league. You say, well, all right, you had to do this, and all right, you had to, this issue came up. You may make an exception. You can't do that in Tout and Labor.
Yeah, he really runs things well, and let's just take a moment to give it up for all our fantasy commissioners. It's a thankless job, and man, they, without them, we wouldn't have these leagues. So thank your commissioner, be kind to them, make their life as commissioner as easy as possible if you can, because there's a lot of time involved as is.
The other side of that, though, is it's their job. So
well, not their job.
Well, in Tout Wars.
Okay.
In Tout Wars, there's compensation. No, my point being, a few times in leagues, I've had people say, I didn't want to bother you, and they got a rule wrong or didn't do something. He said, no, if someone signs up for the commissioner, be it voluntary or not, if you have a question, I look in the rules first.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a question, that's what we're there. What they're there for too. I hate to see, and it's happened where someone, I didn't win. I knew you were busy, and I saw you on Twitter that you had whatever, and you were busy. Well, I asked me the question. It's my job, That's so.
Sure. But
anyway.
If he sends out the Constitution, read the Constitution.
Yeah, but look at the rules first, friends. It's not. It's the. I joke with Brian Walton. I joke with some of the people in the Tout board. If we were to, have a Tout Wars rules quiz, I'm not so sure that we'd have everybody pass.
Yeah, I hear you there. It's tough to get people to really know all the intricacies of your league rules, but just try to reach out to your commissioner if you have questions, but just try to make their lives less complicated if you can.
Yep.
Well, before we move on, quick piece of business here. Hope you'll stay with us. We'll wrap things up afterward. WinBet is now the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's fantasy podcasts. WinBet brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into WinBet's digital casino and take a spin on roulette, double down in blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at baccarat. WinBet is currently available in 9 states: Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia, while rapidly expanding. At WinBet, the possibilities are limitless. Register for WinBet today. Make a qualifying deposit and wager to receive $200 in free bets. Promotion may vary by state. Download WinBet now. That's WYNNBET. WinBet, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's fantasy podcasts. Also experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is an exciting player prop fantasy contest. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up for Thrive Fantasy today and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Here's how you can claim your free RotoWire subscription. Visit rotowire.com/thrive. Deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Then finally, play in your first paid contest and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. So, Todd, I thought it was interesting. You said that you may be looking to spend more aggressively up top of the player pool this year. I found that didn't really work for me. Just had too many $1 to $2 players on there. I found it better to, you want to have balance in the categories pretty much in any league, but in mixed leagues, sometimes it's not so important to have balance in terms of spending around your roster. I found it pretty important to spread pretty evenly, but I'm excited to see how you're able to do things with more of an aggressive approach up top. I'm wondering, though, do you have a difference in your pitcher to hitter spending split going from a mixed league to an AL, or is it still roughly, 60, 65, 70% hitters?
Well, first, I should say that $25 is usually the highest that I have spending in recent years. So I was taking this to these. I may go up to 29. I hardly spent 30. So even if I don't stick to this, even if I hit $35 for my top player, because I do know that Greg Ambrosius and Sean Childs is an AL labor, and Sean especially is going to go out and spend early. So I if he goes out and, well, actually I can't even say that. I was going to say if he goes out and buys Bo Bichette, then I know that maybe I can get a shortstop. He'll buy 3 shortstops he's done that in the past. So it's not even as if now I know who I can spend on with Sean. He just buys the player. So I know that at least one person will be out spending pretty hard. But right now, my preliminary split, and I'll mention this real quick. I've written about it on the site. What I do is I write down an estimated amount that I'll spend on each spot. And if I have $40 spot, and if I spend $37, I will take $3 and I'll move it to another spot, depending upon who I have. If it's the first player, I'll I don't know what I'll probably move it to my next hitter and go 33. I don't know, but I shift around. So, and I could go from hitting to pitching depending upon where I'm at along those lines as well. But right now I'm at 190-70, which is around a 73% hitting. And I don't go in with a set. I mean, I have a set original plan, but there have been years I've gone 65 hitting and 60 hitting. It just depends upon what's available and what I'm comfortable with. There are some years where I'm just comfortable paying the price on the upper pitchers, and I'll get 2 or 3 of them, and that's where I end up. So, even with this setup, I've got $25 as my top pitcher. Whether or not, we'll see if that goes down. And I'm someone that pays for saves. In an only league, I'm the opposite in a mixed league. In an only league, I like my one closer and go from there. I'm just not so sure, who in the AL is someone that you're willing to pay 20 or 25 for. Okay, Liam Hendricks. Am I going? But the thing about it is, you don't want to buy the first guy because maybe you want to see what the prices are going to be. There is, Chapman. I mean, I'm trying to go through it in my head. Romano.
Romano will probably go for like 20-ish.
Yeah, so I'm looking more. I've got 25, 15, 10, 5. I'm looking more at 25 and 15 as 2 starters. And, I've been all over the Barlows. I wouldn't be surprised if I get 1 or 2 of the Barlows and, go from there. We'll see. I mean, I also can go out. I've been an Andrew Kittredge type of. I may go for Kittredge, and I'm trying to think of another, maybe one of the Seattle guys that may get 7 or 8 saves and try to compete that way, because there are trades in this league. So maybe I try to get a base of saves, aim for 25 or 30, and then supplement as needed.
So you don't really have like a split in mind necessarily. I mean, you have a rough split in mind, but more so you do like how much you expect to. Well, yeah, you're not rigid about it, but you kind of have how much you expect to spend for each individual slot.
Right, and that implies a split. Yeah. Wherever it happens to come out. I mean, I may like a starting pitcher may come out. I may like him at 28. Yeah, and I may have to take $3 from batting. And because I don't want to take it away from another pitcher, whatever, I'm flexible in that regard. But there have been years I've spent 55, 45, depending upon. Again, I haven't been all that successful lately, so which is one of the. And I don't think it's because of the inflexibility. I just haven't. I think it's just been too shying away from the top too much. So I mean, I haven't finished in last every year, but this is, you want to win. I mean, I haven't won since 2016.
You play to win the game. That's not that long ago. And plus you have a TGFBI title in that time. But no, that's good. I think you're dead on. That you want to have a rough idea, but you don't want to be married to anything. You want to be, fluid and be able to make some pivots, because you got to plan, but you're going to be punched in the mouth like a minute into this thing. So you got to be able to be flexible and, adapt. But let me ask you another question more related to just auction strategy. When you're doing an auction draft, and this was a question James kind of proposed to me earlier, I was kind of on the fence about it because I like to think I do it one way, but I'm kind of more the other way. Do you think it's important to be like active on every player, bidding on every player so that people don't know your tendencies, or are you more comfortable just saying I'll bid on the guys I want?
I usually am a bid on the guy I want guy, but I mix it up though. I don't know. It's not strictly. I'm not in on everybody because we're remote. I think there's a little bit less of that going on, because you may click a bid +1 or whatever it might be, and someone else already clicked it in, so no one even knew that you wanted a bid. Yeah. So
and it's harder to keep track of who's bidding when. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I think you need to. I don't think you need to do what Chris List did and just get in on every single bid, because then it becomes, I mean, yeah, we know that you could want everybody. I don't think there's an advantage or disadvantage. It's nothing wrong. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt you at all.
Well, maybe it can hurt you in the sense that if you are doing it live and people can, are seeing you and stuff, if you're only bidding on the guys you want, people can know to drive
Oh,
the
yeah,
price
yeah.
and bid you
Well,
up.
I do think you need to, once in a while, I mean, more than once in a while. You don't need to be in on everybody. There's
But
something
you
in
at least
between.
need to do some keep them honest.
I mean, it's better to be in on everybody than only bid on the guys you want.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I do think, and once a draft, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But once or twice, I try. It can't be done remotely. It just can't be. Obviously, what you hear what I'm going to say, I try to, fake that I really want this guy, and someone else starts price enforcing, and I drop him in his lap. You want to let the room know that, yeah, I'm not. I mean, maybe it's on Cole Calhoun, guy that I've known. Maybe it's on a Red Sox player. Maybe it's on Xander Bogaerts. That I've actually been drafting Bogaerts a lot. So maybe people think I want Bogaerts. So there's ways to do it and do it live. You can't do it on the computer, but you say 22, 23. Before you even finish 2, I say 23. In people's minds, Zola wants him because he got that bid in before someone else did. Whereas, I mean, if it stops, it stops. But I want you to keep price enforcing, and if it gets to 28, suddenly Zola's not talking anymore, and you're like, damn it, I didn't really want him.
I mean, that's price enforcing.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I mean, price enforcing. It's one of the. I don't want to call it a fallacy, but how many times have you heard after on the radio you interviewed the guy or the gal, and they say, well, yeah, I was price enforcing so and so, but I was fine. I was fine that I got him anyway. Well, that's not price enforcing.
Yeah.
If you price enforced, you're PO'd that you got the player. Price. I mean, there's a big difference between, well, he was going for 10 and he's a $30 player, and it went to going twice, so I went 11. I priced him. No, someone was gonna go 11, but to me, true price enforce is you're tilted if you get the player. I will bid up. In other words, it's guy maybe you don't really want. But if you're willing to accept them, it's not a price enforce. So the other, I know we're talking sort of general auction. The other thing I think is kind of, I don't know, fallacy or whatever, is when you hear someone, well, I'm going to, my first nomination is going to be Garrett Cole because I want to get money off the table. Money's already off. It's gone. Garrett Cole, if he does not get picked right away, you're not going to get Garrett Cole for $15 because no one had any money left. It's gone. That $35 or $40, it's gone. If you want to get money off the table, I'm trying to think of a guy that maybe you're not into Chris Sale because of the injury, and so put him out there, and that might get a little bit more money. I mean, you want to get more money off the table. To me, money off the table means you throw the player out, and the circumstances are such that he draws a higher price than maybe he would have later.
I hear you. Maybe like a hot prospect or something you throw out early to get out. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, I mean, maybe if I draft Bogaerts, okay, I've got Xander Bogaerts. I don't want any other good shortstop I don't want anybody else to get a bargain on a shortstop. I mean, this is in mixed leagues. It's, because there's so many more of them out there. But I mean, I off the top of my head, so I'm going to throw Semien out there. If I own Bogaerts, if I have Bogaerts on my roster, I'm nominating Semien. I don't want any shortstop to go at a price where I'm mad that I should have waited and gotten this guy instead.
I hear you. I think that's smart. And also with nominations, I think it's smart to kind of use your nominations to gain information about costs. And
you have to.
It sounds obvious, but yeah, you got to kind of, you probably don't want to just completely not think about your nomination strategy. You want to, at least in draft, think about, maybe I should throw this guy out or this guy out just so I can gauge the market for various positions or categories.
You have 12 opportunities every round to learn something other than, purchasing players. So, yeah, whether it's setting the market price, whether it's seeing what speed goes for. Lenny Melnick is famous for throwing closers out because he doesn't buy the closers, so he wants to get the closers out there when everybody has their money, so they are paying top dollar. So, if I'm in the NL League and I'll tout, I want to know the same thing, but I know Lenny's going to do it for me, so I can then focus on something else. I want to see what catchers are going to go for. I want to try to learn something. Or, like I mentioned, I will throw a player out there who I'm just not interested in, and whether it's be injury or any other particular reason, I'll do that. And you want to either learn something or have the throw benefit, block another spot or something.
Yeah, just try to use that to gain more information about the market and what others are doing and how they're viewing things. Good luck tonight, Todd. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to make a bold prediction in that Bobby Witt gets thrown out among the first round of nominations, because I feel like somebody's going to want to get that money off the table and is not going to be really interested in paying top dollar. So that's my bold prediction for tonight. I rooting you guys on, you, Jason, Colette, and James Anderson. I bowed out in favor of James just because I thought he deserved that spotlight, and I think he's going to do some damage. We have a question in the chat, not really related to anything we've been talking about, but I'll just throw this at you since Joseph was kind enough to chime in the chat. Jesse Winker or Franmil Reyes in a 5x5 OBP league?
OBP?
A strong lead?
Yeah, Winker.
Winker in an OBP?
Yeah, I guess maybe I should look up. I think Winker, first of all, outfield eligibility has more upside. I think Reyes, it's a little bit of a category thing, but my gut says Winker, but it is close, and it may just come down, do you need the power or do you need the OBP more?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it boils down to. Because, I like Franmil, but he's a 325 career OBP guy.
Yep.
So you're definitely sacrificing some there if you go after the power. Winker is a great on base guy, and hopefully the power sticks around as well. Well, anything else on your mind today, Todd, before we wrap things up?
We'll mention labor, and let's give our friends at Baseball HQ a plug. We're both going to be participating in the First Pitch forums. Right before the labor draft, I'm doing a 10-minute. I don't know who my opponent is, but I'm going to be explaining why they're dumb by taking closers early. I have a moderating a panel about the infield on Saturday, and I'm also doing a panel with Chris Olson about rules, and where people get to ask us. We're ready to fill in the dead spots of nobody talking, but people can ask us, my league's thinking of going to saves plus holds. What do you guys think? Or would you like, so they can ask us about rules.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to be on with Mike Gianella from Baseball Prospectus, I think 7 to 11 Eastern tomorrow. So we'll be just on a public Zoom. I think Paul Spohr is on 7 to 9. So come hang out. It'll be real informal, just reviewing drafts and shooting the breeze, talking baseball. So.
Is that during the mixed auction? So that's kind of in the background?
Yeah.
So
we'll be evaluating that as it's going on live and just
right.
hanging in a public Zoom. So look for a tweet with that link. And thanks for all the insight, Todd. Good luck tonight, and hope you all join us next week on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, sponsored by WinBet.